Hey, everybody, welcome back. Craig Shoup here with George Thomas, our film critic from the Akron Beacon Journal. George is here, and it's May, and we're already talking Oscars, aren't we? Here we've got Garfield, as if we needed another Garfield movie in this universe. We have another Garfield movie in this universe. George, this just seems like the laziest of cash grabs ever. We get this. I guess is it a origin story of Garfield here? I mean, this is an animated feature, so it sort of departs from the Bill Murray led live action blend of animation. So is Garfield the movie a worthwhile trip for the family to the Cineplex this weekend?
Actually, yeah.
Really?
For a family, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there is a dearth of family fare out there now, and it leads you to believe that it's an origin story. It's an origin story for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
For the first 10 minutes, we're treated to how Garfield and John got together.
Okay.
The other time is spent dealing with how Garfield and his father reconcile.
Okay.
Or if they reconcile.
Okay.
It's something different in the Garfield universe if there is such an animal.
Yeah.
There's no heavy lifting. Chris Pratt is okay as the voice of Garfield.
What's with this? Last year we had the Super Mario Brothers movie, and this year we have Garfield, and Chris Pratt finds himself as, when did he become the go-to voice actor for animated movies, apparently?
I guess when the paychecks became large enough.
Well, it seems like, you probably had a better Garfield voice with Bill Murray, I'm guessing. Like, you kind of feel like that would be Garfield's voice, like if you've never seen Garfield before, or, whatever it may be, any kind of introduction into Garfield, you think Bill Murray's kind of got a good Garfield voice. But here Chris Pratt, nothing like that. But does it fit with this Garfield?
Well, it works for the purposes of this movie, but I see what you're saying, because Bill Murray is the perfect droll, sarcastic voice you'd expect for the character. Chris Pratt does all right. I mean, Garfield that's presented as a younger kind of guy, so perhaps he's not as sarcastic. The emphasis is more on his attraction to food. And he I can't believe we're talking about this way.
Yes, we are talking about just for full disclosure, we would like to be talking about Furiosa, but we are not, and that is nothing that George did or did not do. It just was not given to George to view.
Correct. The NBA screenings in Cleveland, or Warner Brothers screenings in Cleveland are sort of like NBA television rights for Warner Brothers Discovery right now. So,
right.
Maybe that changes in the future. Maybe it doesn't. But there were worse ways for me to spend a Sunday afternoon. The kids enjoyed it, and I was talking to theater manager for an independent theater chain. It's not even a chain. The prominent independent theater in Akron today. The executive director of the Nightlight, and that's a highbrow kind of thing. It's a small independent theater specializing in showing independent films. And today she dropped a name I had never heard in the history of cinema.
Okay.
Man Ray. What about you? Ringing any bells?
No, it's not. Okay. Not at all.
She dropped that on me, but and I asked for clarification. Well, who this is, and she shared. I'm like, okay, and I said, I'm sorry. It's like, it's just my week entailed going to see Garfield. You know what she said? Oh, I want to take the neighbor kids to see that because their son is too old to. In her eyes, her son is 20,
Yeah.
wouldn't want to go. She's probably right, but she wants to take the neighbor kids because she loves Garfield.
Okay.
My wife loves Garfield.
Okay.
The appeal is in the character. The character has been around since I was a kid, and we're talking a very, very long time in that regard. So yeah, it's kind of weird we're talking about it, but I get it. And if you're a fan of the character, I don't think you're going to be disappointed by this movie. If you have kids, sure, take them if you got nothing better to do, especially given the way that everybody's being neglected at the box office by movie studios right now.
Yeah.
And family films are especially hard to come by.
Yeah, I mean, I know we didn't talk about If, John Krasinski's film that came out last week. I don't know if you had a chance to see that. I mean, it seems like there are some family friendly options out there right now.
Yeah, they everything I know about that is they tried to hide it.
I can see why it did not score very well critically.
They tried to hide it, and that's a little game that studios play when they don't want their box office hurt. And
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that opened at number one at the box office,
it did. Yeah, yes, it did.
but you will notice a dearth of reviews, and those who managed to review it prior to its actual release managed to get in on a screening that was available to um, sneak audiences, but not to the press.
Yeah.
So it goes, but it's a wreck right now.
Why is that? I mean, is this maybe a reflection of maybe the fallout of aftermath of the strikes? I mean,
Strikes, COVID,
yeah,
yeah, it's all a contributing factor.
yeah. Well, and I think too, there's a lot more buzz seemingly coming out of like the Cannes Film Festival right now, especially because we've had our first views of Megalopolis, the Francis Ford Coppola 40-year project that came to light finally at his, with his ability to sell off some of his winery and pay for it himself. But
That's
it's
too bad. That's good wine.
yeah, I know we've talked about that in the past. So, but for Garfield, obviously, this is probably going to be slotting into their, solid box office, probably. Although who knows, it's going to be up against If for that young kid audience. This kind of, looking at this film, and I'm not sure if it's the same studio, but it kind of gives me like the Grinch animated movie vibes, like where it's just like kind of thrown together and just out there for a new audience for kids and maybe the hope to score some money here. I don't know. I mean, is this worth people's time that don't have kids?
No.
Yes.
Unless you're a Garfield fan, I take issue with the statement just thrown together. It's not.
Okay.
It's a very well made movie.
Okay.
It really is. It's great animation. It's very well made. It's just I get where you would think it's blatant money grab. I I, I understand that. Considering you're right, we probably had the quintessential Garfield and Bill Murray at one point, but
Yeah.
you and I both know that everything is meant to be remade in movies for a different audience, and
Yeah.
that's what they're going for here.
Well, and we have a lot of that because we have a animated Transformers movie that comes out later this year. We have an animated Lord of the Rings movie that comes out later this year. So yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there that they are really kind of repackaging some of these projects just to try to capture a new audience. So, did you give a final grade for Garfield? I did not see a review written from you. So,
You know what? I did not review it for the paper this week. it's if you
It
have
was that good, right? It's
well,
words can't express how great this movie is.
well, this week it was either a two-piece story on smoking or in smoking meats, picking a smoker and how to smoke meats, or the Garfield review, and they wanted,
Sounds like the
I
right
ended up
choice.
writing two 1,100 word stories about smoking meat.
Yeah.
So there we go.
All right. Well, if you were to pose a letter grade for this, what would it be?
Well, if you got kids, it's a B minus. If you don't, it's a C minus.
Okay, that's good food for thought for the families as they figure out what they want to see. Obviously, I don't know if the little kids are going to be into Furiosa, so if you've already seen If, maybe, or maybe you can go to Garfield this weekend.
Right? If you got kids, there are worse things to do because you can't take them to Furiosa, man.
Well, hey, Chris Hemsworth, on the screen, why not?
The thing is, I get the impression the role might be right up his alley.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll never know. I mean, are you going to go see Furiosa this weekend, or are you going to? I know we talked a little bit last week. You're not the biggest fan of cars, and obviously Furiosa is another chase movie like Fury Road was. But are you going to go see it?
Keep in mind, I'm part of the Mad Max generation, and I wasn't a Mad Max fan.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was in high school when the original Mel Gibson film came out, and the series is really, and I enjoyed Furiosa because it was liberating from a female perspective.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that about it. This young Furiosa, it's really not tripping my trigger. No, I'm not a big fan of chase scenes and all that.
Yeah.
As a narrative plot. So
Yes. Which in a lot of ways, that's what Fury Road was, is just a big long chase movie, which I thought it was very well crafted. And we often talk about movies that sort of overdo the plot, or have too much of that exposition or too much dialogue. George Miller is just like, well, hold my beer, you're going to get no dialogue here. And I think they said that Anya Taylor-Joy has like 30 lines total in Furiosa. So I think he's going back to the well there and saying, we don't need to make talky movies. He's in the the Denis Villeneuve camp of going back to the silent era of filmmaking.
see, here's the weird thing. I'm probably going to end up seeing it because it's an action film, and you know who likes action films? My wife.
Yeah.
She's never met an action film she did not like.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how ridiculous and how trashy it is. If it's an action film, she wants to see it.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Well, sorry you have to get dragged out to the movies, I guess, but I'm sure you'll have enough fun to satisfy the itch. Obviously a light week this week. Is there anything coming up on the horizon for next week?
Actually, I don't think so because they want to see how the holiday weekend pays out.
Yeah. It's wow. Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule. It's
No,
extremely light. Yeah, it's very, very light.
Nothing really new until the 7th when we're getting Bad Boys 4.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
The Watchers, which I think is M. Night Shyamalan.
That's his daughter, actually.
It's his daughter. I know they each have a movie this year.
His movie comes out in like August, I think. So,
and we'll see whether they screen it, but
that's true. That's a good, and I think they are both. I know his movie is a Warner Brothers movie, so you may not get the access to the new Shyamalan, which honestly, I don't know if you're missing out a lot on modern Shyamalan movies at this point, but
I can't remember the last time I liked one of his films. Uh, he had,
I'll
he had,
admit I did like The Village. I'm probably one of the only two or three people that liked The Village,
no,
but
you're not. I'm the other two. I'm the second one.
yeah, after that though, I had a lot of disdain for Lady in the Water. The Happening was just terrible. I was a near miss. It was a miss, but it was nearly good with Old, his latest movie that came out a couple of years ago. I thought had an interesting premise that it was surprisingly poorly shot, and I was very surprised that a Shyamalan movie would look terrible, and it looked terrible. It was poorly shot and crafted, and some of the camera tricks were just so obnoxiously terrible that I almost wondered if they were trying to make people cringe in their seats about how bad the film looked. But never really got into the Split or Glass movies, although I am a fan of Unbreakable.
I'll
But
see that's the last one I remember
okay,
enthusiastically liking of his, Unbreakable.
okay,
And beyond that, and my older son, tried to get me into the other, and I guess they're part of the Unbreakable trilogy, Split, and
Glass, yeah,
yeah, and I had no interest.
yeah. Yeah, I did not get into those. After Earth was terrible. Tried to forget that with Will Smith and his son was just another awful, awful movie. I know he did the Last Airbender as well, Avatar. So yeah, he's had a very, I mean, he peaked, pretty quickly into his career. He was on the ascend, and then he went down very quickly on the other side of that mountain. So we'll see what happens this year. I mean, Josh Hartnett getting his flowers in that movie. He's going to be the main bad guy. Probably going to have a charismatic performance, I would guess, as he finally gets back into the leading man spotlight, I guess you could say. And we'll see how that works out for him. But that's the one thing about Shyamalan, and I was talking with one of my friends about this, is he tends to make movies like at a reasonable budget and they make money. So he keeps getting the work. So Warner Brothers is thinking, even if the movies aren't well received, they still end up making money because he's able to make these movies for that classic, like, oh, this isn't $180 million production budget. So he's able to kind of get return on investment for the studio.
And keep it. They're letting him do his stuff too. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I I got it after what was the first one I see? Dead People.
Oh, The Sixth Sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm more of a Signs Shyamalan fan. I like Signs a lot better than The Sixth Sense. I think, The Sixth Sense was, I mean, they're both kind of gimmicky in a way, but I think The Sixth Sense did a little bit better job, even compared to, or I think Signs did a better job for me building tension, not showing the aliens too much, and giving us something to kind of be afraid of, almost, if you will. And it kind of ratcheted up the tension a little bit in that thriller. Whereas The Sixth Sense was just kind of like, oh, it's a twist ending, but other than that, everything else was basically kind of by the book in sort of unforgettable in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
Fair enough. And yeah, I like Signs too.
Yeah.
I, even if it had a twist ending, but you're right, he ratcheted up the tension in that
Yeah.
very well.
It was one of those, it was sort of like, I think, his homage to like Jaws, where you don't see what you think you want to see the whole time, and by not seeing it, in this case the aliens, you're sort of interested a little bit more in what's going on, and then you're also kind of wondering when you're going to see it, and then you see glimpses and things and parts and pieces, and I think it works so much better as opposed to having aliens on screen all the time, so you can say, oh, look how cool these things look or whatever. And I think I'm assuming he did that for budgetary reasons, because they probably didn't have the same budget as you would have for like a War of the Worlds or something, where you're going to be able to show as many aliens as you want. But it actually kind of worked in his benefit, because it kind of kept you on the edge of your seat on what was going to happen.
Are you saying he's no Spielberg?
No, he's not Spielberg. He's definitely not Spielberg, but I think he took some cues from Spielberg, and I think he realized that less is more sometimes, even though I don't know that he adheres to the less is more in his movies after Signs, though.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, since it's kind of a quiet couple of weeks here at the movies, have you been streaming anything? What are you watching at home right now? Any recommendations?
I'm still on The Gentleman.
Okay.
I checked out The Big Cigar. Did we discuss that one?
We did not discuss The Big Cigar. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that. Maybe you could talk a little bit about The Big Cigar.
It's a weird. I don't know how true it is, and this is what bothers me. I mean, there's been some criticism of it. For those who don't know the story, it's about how a Hollywood film producer, one who eventually won an Oscar, helped Huey P. Newton and his wife get to Cuba.
Okay.
When he was wanted for murder. Now, I don't know how many dramatic licenses they took.
Yeah.
It's received some criticism, mostly from the camp that says they should let black filmmakers tell black stories. And I get that. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized the purpose of it was more entertainment centric as opposed to wanting to tell that story about the meaning and influence of this man and the movement he helped found with the Black Panthers.
Right.
And I can get why some people will be pissed that it doesn't take that aspect of the situation as seriously as they would want. But the story is so absurd that it's a perfect Hollywood entertainment vehicle.
Yeah.
Now, along the way, there's commentary about the social order, racism, economic oppression. It's just a situation where it's been made to not delve deeply into those areas, and like I said, more to entertain you. And there are a couple of prominent African American creators behind it, like Don Cheadle produces and he directed a couple episodes.
Okay.
And I don't think something like this gets made without a Don Cheadle.
Right. Yeah.
And like I said, it's taking its criticism, but it's another, may not be a home run, but it's a solid hit.
Okay.
Quality wise for Apple TV. And they've had a number of them. And I can't think of the last truly bad thing they put out.
Yeah.
I haven't watched everything, but
right. Yeah, and they seem to be a lot more prolific now. I think they're starting to get their footing in terms of, I don't think they want to just throw stuff on the wall like Netflix or other streamers have, where the quality, kind of goes down. But it seems like they're starting to really ramp up their investment into programming now.
Yeah, and they just had a meeting and decided to keep that investment, especially theatrically, going, despite the fact that they haven't had much in the way of box office returns. So for now, they remain committed. We'll see.
Well, I mean, I think, even though no one probably expected Killers of the Flower Moon to do anything, I think for, a 3 hour plus 3.5 hour movie, it wasn't like devoid of box office. I mean, it made a decent amount of money for a movie that's R rated, really dense subject matter, and it's, long. I think it's probably something that it did better than expected, maybe, even with DiCaprio and, Scorsese behind it.
Was most of its box office overseas though?
Well, it made 157 million worldwide, but it did make 68 million domestically. So it was one of those classic, you know, close to a 60-40 split, basically, which is not uncommon at all for the international box office to do a little bit better than the domestic box office on.
No, it's bigger, but the thing is, that's basically as far as budget goes. I'm pretty sure that's close to break even if you're not including marketing.
Right. But are you expecting, think about a movie like The Irishman that did not get more than what, a week in the box office, which didn't make anything. And that budget was ballooned over $200 million. So you're probably making more money back on Killers of the Flower Moon than you anticipated, even if you are losing money or breaking even at best. Like, you're still probably doing better than you anticipated on a 3.5 hour R-rated movie about, slaughtering Native Americans, basically.
Well, yeah, with all due respect, I think Apple right now is still in the when I worked retail and sold electronics, they were called doorbusters,
Mhm.
lost leaders. Here, we're gonna sell something ridiculously cheap, take a loss on it just to get you in the store.
Right,
I
right.
think they're still doing that with some programming. They know it. I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon was a great film. It's also a vanity project.
Yeah.
So,
And they had another one like that too with Napoleon last year,
oh
where,
yeah, absolutely.
but Napoleon, I'm looking it up, made $221 million, which is
What?
incredibly surprising. Now, granted, 73% almost, or 72% came international, so 159 million from international markets, but that's a lot of money for a movie that, again, it's 2.5 hours and it's pretty dense, and didn't really get a lot of acclaim when it was released. So, but I mean, I think it's good though that Apple. The thing is though that they have enough money to where they can take a loss, like you're saying, on these doorbusters, because they make money hand over fist on just the electronics part of it. So anything that they do subscription wise to Apple TV Plus is gravy to them. I think, is it supporting, are the subscriptions supporting the amount of content that they have or the spending on the content they do? No, but that's why they have everything else to support that, so they can afford to take a few chances. Now, maybe they won't want to do that in a few years when they want to see a little bit more profit from their streaming service, but right now they don't really. I don't think they really deem it necessary, or feel like they have to do something.
With all due respect, they have more money than God right
Yeah,
now.
they do. They have so much money, and Amazon Prime is the same way, where they have just unlimited checkbooks, and all of they're not reliant on the streaming product to make money, or theatrical product to make money, like you are with Universal and Warner's and Paramount, where they have to make money theatrically to kind of support their streaming services.
No, I think they're hedging their bets on the future, and they Amazon, Apple think ultimately streaming is the future, which is why you see the interest in live sports on their behalf. Although
Mhm.
Apple just chucked Major League Baseball, I see.
Oh, okay. Well, they were offering that for free too, which was,
Yeah,
you have to buy the package for Major League Soccer, but then they offered Major League Baseball for free. Or at least they did when they first brought it out. I don't know if they've done it this year, but I think there's still problems with accessibility. And I mean, I think Apple TV Plus's interface is a little bit better than some of the other streamers, especially like, watching Max. If you're trying to get sports on Max, sometimes it's hard to find it. You have to go to the tab, or it doesn't just show up. Like, it should be booming you right in the face like Peacock does with college football, or Paramount does with their NFL or college football. And Max really doesn't do that right now. And maybe they're not worried about it because they've got the Venue Sports merger coming, and they don't really maybe think of it like, well, we've got to hit these people over the face with Max because we want them to subscribe, because maybe they think about it like they don't need to worry about it because Venue Sports is going to be coming and taking over most of that sport.
Well, here's the problem with Venue Sports. TNT or Warner Brothers Discovery, they don't need the NBA.
I think they do.
Yeah. Well, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah, I think they do, and that's a huge loss.
Yeah, their share of Venue is immediately devalued if they don't have the NBA.
Yeah. Now, I did see though that they are apparently going to have some like early round college football playoff games on TNT. So I don't know if that's their hope that they're making up for the loss of the NBA, but I kind of wonder if Turner didn't have the NBA, would ESPN, Disney be eager to get into bed with them on this streaming platform? Because ESPN could say, well, we already have college football. We already have National Hockey League. We don't need more of that because that you guys are helping kind of bridge the gap. So everybody's going to have our service of the NBA. So it's not going to be one or the other. We're going to have your pregame and postgame show. That's probably the best produced sports pregame and postgame show of all time. And now that you don't have that,
you know what? I don't know that Inside the NBA was part of that deal.
Okay.
I'd have to double check it, but yeah.
Well, someone was saying that, you could get Shaq or you can get Charles Barkley, but someone said that Ernie Johnson's contract is such that he can't go elsewhere to do NBA stuff, or he can't leave the Turner umbrella.
Well, where in an era where announcers work on every freaking network these days,
yeah,
there are legal ways to take care of it. He wants to do because there was a report today that Charles Barkley said, yeah, he'd be perfectly, if TNT lost the rights, he'd be perfectly willing to take the Inside the NBA pregame into his production company, package it, and sell it to another network.
Yeah.
And you know what? It would be if NBC gets that contract, it would behoove them to jump right on it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would give them instant credibility. But isn't Peacock going to be a part? Isn't Universal part of the Venue Sports package, or is that Paramount?
Disney, Fox.
Oh, it's Fox. That's right, Fox.
Disney, Fox, and Time Warner.
Yeah.
I keep saying really, Time Warner. It should be Warner Brothers Discovery. Oh, habits die hard.
Yeah. But I mean, a real coup for Universal if they can package that and get the Inside the NBA. I mean, that would be that bring instant credibility and ratings, and people would probably flock to that over ESPN because of the studio show. Really.
That when you said that's one of the best studio shows ever made, that's no lie.
Yeah.
No, I covered the NBA full time for those couple years, and I've seen enough basketball games to where I don't have to watch a regular season game before a Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Christmas Day, I don't have to watch them again until playoff positioning is online in April.
Yeah.
But I will still tune into Inside the NBA.
Yeah.
On a night when I've there's nothing else on, and I know those guys are on
Yeah,
simply because it's that good,
it is.
that
Yeah.
good with the internet analysis, and they're entertaining as all get out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, hopefully we find a way to keep that together, even if it's not. I mean, I guess you could always say that it'll never be the same, even if they have inside the NBA switch over to Peacock or wherever. But I just get the sense that that magic's not going to go away just because it's not under the Turner umbrella. But who knows?
We'll see, but I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean,
Okay.
those guys are those guys.
Yeah. All right, George. Well, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and talking Garfield. It really is going to rev up the ratings for us, I think. All the young kids that listen to the show are very interested to hear your take on Garfield. But hopefully, next time we get together, we will have some fun stuff to talk about. And as always, you can follow George at by George Thomas on social media, and you can read all of his entertainment, sports, print, everything that he does, movie reviews at beaconjournal.com. George,
And grilling and
yeah,
smoking.
hey, that's an important part. I'm down here in the South. I mean, my wife and I went to Memphis and had some great barbecue. So, yeah, don't sleep on good smoking meats. We need them.
Yes, sir.
All right, George, we will talk again. Have fun at the movies and have fun watching some things at home. Maybe taking some breaks from the movies, I guess, this week.
And there's a new Netflix series I want to check out that dropped this past week. I was looking at it's an Irish series. So
Okay.
I was looking at The Gentleman.
Okay.
I saw a preview for it, so I'm going to check that out this week.
All right. Sounds good, my friend. We will talk again soon. Have a good one.
Later.